Hello everybody, this week is dedicated for a very wonderful group of musicians performing one of the most well-known and extraordinary pieces of chamber music, Robert Schumann's Piano Quintet. And among us there is the amazing Wolfgang Redik, Professor of Chamber Music at the Hanns Eisler Music University, and it's an incredible honor to play together with you. And maybe first question, or maybe first topic that we want to speak about, we were wondering, how is it for you? You have such a big experience playing chamber music, but also teaching chamber music. You've been teaching also in Salzburg before, you're in Eisler now. How is it teaching for young people, and how was it now playing with young people?
Well, of course it's quite different, because when you teach, you are a neutral ear. And when you play with any musicians, you can't be neutral anymore because you are involved. For me, of course, it is always very enriching to first of all, to play with people I hardly know. In this case, it's actually quite funny because each of you at least had once a class with me, or more often. And for me, this is actually very enriching to see that how your generation is growing very rapidly into very great and serious musicians. And I wouldn't say that I can feel like being part of it, but of course it is somehow a little bit honoring when you were teaching certain values and you see that those values are still here in the next generation. So I think this is something which is for a dedicated teacher, like I think I am, just very enriching and very positive.
And you were mentioning generation, so our generation. Do you see any sort of difference towards the seriousness of chamber musicianship in this generation? Any differences compared to, let's say, I wouldn't want to say your generation, but let's say, I don't know, maybe in how was it in the 80s or in the 90s? Yeah. Do you think there is any difference in that?
I think there's a huge difference actually, because nowadays we have so many universities and institutions who are offering really good programs in chamber music. This was not the case when I was studying, and I know that it was even worse with my father's generation, for instance.
Yeah.
So I think that this also proves that it is correct to put a certain focus and on chamber music in higher institutions of music. I see it has become harder for you to make a career out of it. It was. I remember that I saw that when I made. I tried to make a profession out of chamber music, which I in the end happily succeeded. I saw that how hard it was for us already compared to the generation before. There were more ensembles, and I think this is nowadays really much more. So there are much more string quartets, much more piano trios, also piano quartets mainly. So the competition is much higher, which again is also a very positive thing. So from my perspective, from my point of view, I see this positive, because the lowest level of quality is rising and rising. And I can see that, and I see now also, for instance, in Berlin, that the quality generally is very high, and it's more my aim and also my duty to inspire people that playing chamber music, not like we did actually today, so not for once and we rehearsed for some days and then we go off, but really to keep on doing that and to consider this as a possible way to have your profession.
Exactly this I wanted to ask you regarding to what you were saying. You had for so many years a piano trio, right? And for example, now we just rehearsed a couple of days. Hope it's nice to say. We rehearsed a couple of days. We almost didn't know. I mean, we never played together. I think we did play together, yeah. Madeleine, yeah. But we almost didn't know our musical personalities. nowadays, can a musician be this sort of chamber musician that plays in different groups, or is a chamber musician only the one that plays in one single group?
No, not at all. I think there is maybe one thing which is essential, and this is a certain similarity of the approach towards music. I have played lots of also kind of open chamber music concerts in my life, and I've noticed that in some places where the education of making music is completely different, this is really harsh and very hard, because you don't breathe together. And I think we have noticed from the first rehearsal on that there are no general issues we have to discuss, so we have to rehearse. So it's very clear that we breathe together, we let things go, we release attention, and all these things. So therefore, I think it is, I mean, to dig deeper into the works you do in a fixed ensemble is something which we can't achieve in a couple of days. But you also have to see it like this. But I mean, for us string players, for instance, to achieve a certain sound, and so you require to have a similar base of how you produce sound at all, together with breathing and so on. And we were discussing in our rehearsals also about how we try to adjust our sound towards the keyboard sound, and how much you need to do this towards the string sound, in articulation, in phrasing, in all these things. And I think the great thing to do every now and then, open chamber music with not a fixed ensemble, is also to be inspired with new ideas. And this also happened to me when I had concerts with a conductor or with other guys to play some chamber music together. Just new ideas of how you could see a phrase, or how you rehearse something to get somehow in a unity. So I think the best thing would be a mixture, actually. And even for fixed ensembles, I would highly recommend that they also do sometimes something else to get this inspiration and to bring this then into the group, and then the group can grow even more.
I mean, this is why this project even exists, because of the idea of people meeting each other, experiencing how it is to play with other people, learning from that, because I think you learn so much simply by just playing. You don't even have to talk about many things. And so this project was developed during the global lockdown back in the spring. And maybe it's not so, maybe it would be interesting to speak about this topic, about how you sort of went through that experience of a lockdown, of not being able to play music, especially with other people. And maybe we can also reach a couple of points of how do we go from here. So maybe Madeleine, you can say something about like how was this period for you?
Yeah, I mean, of course, there's the very direct impact that we have many concerts cancelled at once, and that's also, I mean, seeing everything going on in the world, that's anyway very challenging to see. But I think in these times it's good also to focus on why we play music, and actually having the experience of missing the concerts and the live experience so much, for me gave kind of a new meaning, you know. It's you know why you're so grateful to be able to do that every day, and why we also want to fight so much to be able to play again, you know, together. And I think it's also a way to bring people together in a deeper way. I mean, of course, you're together with the people that you play chamber music with, but I think music can speak to really anyone. I mean, people also that used to go to the concerts a lot, I think missed it a lot.
Yeah, there is a big appetite.
Exactly,
you can notice there is a big appetite of concert goers that want to experience that. So, what do we do now? How do we go further? I mean, this pandemic will not end next week. you know, it will not end harshly.
It will be nice, but
it will not be today, no concert, starting from tomorrow, big orchestras with thousands of people in the audience.
Yeah.
So
I think we, in every part of the society, probably have to adjust to this new situation and prepare for this, maybe the worst case. Like, for example, this project is a very good example of what you can create out of this desperate situation.
Yeah.
I would say, and it's a really beautiful beautiful thing that was born in this crisis.
yeah, I think that
I would say
in crisis times, I think that
you get creative.
Exactly, one can create, be so creative, right?
Absolutely, and not just creative. I think also, despite the situation per se is quite frustrating, I think we all learned so many small things in life which we normally don't even notice in the everyday life. And I think those small things really really helped me to get through this in spring. Now it's of course a different situation. But when this first frustration was over, I think all these small things in the everyday life which you normally don't really see or value, they started to be a big part of life again.
Yeah. And so how do you see, Professor Redik, do you see the future of the concerts? Maybe less audience, maybe more diverse repertoire, or maybe not centered in the big cities, but maybe somewhere else? I don't know, there are, people are throwing ideas. Like now is the chance to finally get rid of old bad habits. Let's stop playing the same old program. Let's play something else. Or maybe let's stop playing in the big hall. Maybe let's go, or maybe stop playing in the concert hall. Maybe stop playing in the concert hall and start playing in a barn or in a parking lot. I don't know. How do you see that?
Well, I mean, we have to see this very diverse, because there are many things. I, by the way, agree very much on what you all said, particularly that we musicians also started to value certain things which were completely normal and completely we took them for granted. And for me, personally, it's traveling. I mean, I'm still trying to travel because I need to, but of course not in the extent I did before. And I noticed that I notice how much I value actually to be home for longer on the one side, and I notice on the other hand also what I actually miss. It's not that I jump into the next flight and go somewhere, it's what do I really miss when I think about traveling and performing, etc., giving master classes. About the future, I think that I think each of us should be very aware that we have to play a certain role and part to make clear for people who are not into arts how much arts actually affects the whole life. And I think that with all the protests which were going on in Berlin, like 2 weeks ago, huge protest of event managers and concert presenters, etc., because they are from 100 to 0 now, so there is nothing happened, as you said. And we have, particularly here in Europe, of course, we have all these wonderful smaller and bigger concert halls, opera houses, etc., etc. So I don't see the need, if in the moment we are allowed to play again, to go from Berliner Philharmonie to the parking lot and play the concert there. But I think to be innovative now and to know exactly what we could do, and maybe to play it more in the woods, for instance. Like in New York, they do now all the concerts in front of Lincoln Center and playing with masks and so on, as long as the weather allows that. Just to give the feeling to the people, to the normal people, not the artists, that music is alive, art is alive, and we are also alive. despite of the question of our economical situation, which of course is very harsh for many colleagues. I see, if I am a born optimist, so I'm not afraid really, but of course it concerns me. I do not see that the way of how we present our music towards the audiences will really change. Maybe sometimes the problem which existed before Corona definitely is that our audiences are rather old. They're aged, so it's 60 plus. And we should be more aware and maybe with more innovative ideas about programming, about venues, about all this, about how we put them together, about the length of concerts. For instance, an interesting detail I noticed is that many people after concerts now in September, October, when we were allowed to play, would come to me and say, that's so great, this 1 hour focus on this and not longer, because we were not allowed to play longer, and rather play this twice if there is enough audience. So I think that mainly also the presenters and the people in charge for organizing concerts should rethink and should be more flexible and not stuck, be stuck into this kind of only old way to play 7:30 until 9:30 and so on. So to be more flexible with this, and this also is for us, of course. But how we did music, maybe I'm too traditional in that. Generally, I think this will not change, and as soon as we all have overcome this situation, this pandemic, I think it will partly be normal again, and maybe also to say Austria is a paradise still compared to other countries. There are some parts in Germany, but not all. But if you see other countries where music does not play such an essential role in our society, and for us it is we are blessed that music and art is part of tourism and is part of our identity, and that's why this will stay important, and also the support, also governmentally support, will not drop even more than it dropped in all other places. So I hope also for other countries. I'm more scared in North America, where mainly for chamber music, all the societies are how do you say, ehrenamtlich. Yes. I don't know how to say it in English. So they just do it because they love it. They don't get money for that, and they raise money and to be able to invite international artists to come. This will maybe rather die, because also this generation is getting older and older, and if we are not taking care that the next generation, my generation actually, is trying to understand that this is so important for our well-being. I try to say often to people who don't understand what we do as musicians is that it's wellness. It's wellness for the soul and the brain. Not to play, also to listen, to get into this flow, to be able to really relax with your whole inner body at least. Yeah? And I hope that at some point more people will notice this, maybe even being more aware after a crisis like we are still in. So this would be actually my hope. So I see the future not negative at all, actually.
I think it's also really important that from a young age the children start to appreciate the music and get to know more music, because I also noticed that a lot of musicians that study at the university also come from musician families. So I think the percentage of people who come from non-musician families is a little less. And so it's, for some children it might, though we have internet and everything, but it might still be difficult to get this access to classical music, especially. Yeah. They probably need more.
I'm very with you, Laura. I think this is maybe really the essential part, is that we have to understand that it doesn't have to be music, but we're speaking about music now. So if children forget to make music themselves, if it's only a button or a slide on the device to hear music, and they never, in a big society, I mean, they don't even know what it means to produce music. It can be drums, it can be whatever. Yeah? And it's funny because I have twin sons, they are 14 now, and we try to inspire them to play instruments, and then they started, and it was this instrument, but this wasn't fun enough, and because they think that classical music is very boring, and so they are more in other things. And now they do piano and guitar, and now I was actually expecting that they would stop, because you know it's this age, they're 14 now, so it's the age where it can turn. And now they are very enthusiastic suddenly from themselves, because they notice that it also brings them something which makes them a little bit more special than somebody who can't do that. I don't think that they understand it in the big picture. So to support the idea what Laura meant, that more young people in the normal education get this idea how essential this is for us. This is the same with painting. I'm so sad that I can't paint at all because I never had a support, never, and I'm really bad. And I see that children who get support, that some of them leave it naturally, and that's also fine.
But they still probably understand a little bit more, and maybe later the probability that they will come back and listen to something is higher.
Yeah. And I think also the main part, what you just said, was that it's not just in music schools, but generally in education. Also in the normal schools, because when I was like from 10 to 14 in the school, then when I was in the 4th class, they cut down music like to, I think it was 1 hour per week. So it's even less than, I don't know, I think it was we had not one subject which we had that less actually.
Yeah.
So there you also see, like, in the educational system, what's the importance of music somehow. So that should also be like.
Yeah, because I agree completely, and I think also that to cut those things, because I have the feeling nowadays everything has to have a direct line to something which is effective, you know. So if you learn mathematics and Latin and these things, this will be effective in order to be able to study medicine or laws or whatever you study. Yeah? Music, visual arts, drawing, whatever, or maybe something like an art class. It doesn't have to be only music, something which is just part of our identity, and we are proud when we are adults to show things which is in our tradition, beautiful houses, architecture, all these things. Yeah? And part of it is also our music tradition. Yeah? And they cut the music because nobody was actually listening to the teachers anymore, because they tried to say there was a Beethoven and there was a Mozart, but nobody was interested in that anymore, and they only knew it because of Falco and all these things. So yeah, but that's how it is, and to educate teachers in order to give in general education something which is also part of the life of the youngsters. And not something which is only for a certain elite, so to speak. Yeah? Yeah. And this gap is getting bigger and bigger, and I think it's very dangerous. And again, this awful crisis now for all of us, yeah, would be a chance actually to sit down and think about. And we all don't take the chance to think about things which we could do better. I was wondering, what did the politicians do the whole summer? And why don't they have more and more effective answers for the second lockdown? Yeah? I'm really wondering, we had this already. We had the situation, and that there was the forecast that it will come again. Everybody, I mean, all the specialists said it will come again. Yeah? And now we are here, and everybody is in the same panic as we were in March. You know? So to take the moments of forced silence, to also use maybe some more brain capacity, and to, not about British, not speaking about politics, but for us, for making things more attractive, which are sliding into a certain kind of detour. Yeah? And classical music is in danger of that. If we don't take care that our audiences also understand and want to understand what we do. And this would be actually a chance. And I'm as I said, an optimist, so I'm very hopeful that people will recognize this, at least part. And as you said before, they have an appetite for that, because they notice that this is not only a social event if you go to an opera or an orchestra concert. It's also that you have something else which you can't name again. It's not effective again in a direct way. Yeah. It's something which just happens. And this is what we should believe in more. That's what I think.
I think it's wonderful that we are here because we're optimistic, right? I think we're optimistic, so we play together. We want to profit from the times that we have here. Of course, challenging times, but times of that can bring deep change, and perhaps for the better, right?
Absolutely.
And I want to thank you for joining us and doing wonderful music. Thank you, Professor Redik, for joining us.
It was a pleasure.
Thank you.
Thank you all. Thank you for watching us. And I hope you tune in on Friday at 7 p.m. on our Facebook page to enjoy, as we discussed, the beautiful music of the Piano Quintet by Robert Schumann. Thank you.